Eddy Grant, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Virgin Radio and Virgin Radio Plus.
Thank you. Welcome to Eddy Grant.
Listen, I'm going to go straight in there.
Yes.
Gimme Hope, Joanna, which is on your list of tracks. This was the first 7-inch record I ever bought with my pocket money.
Wow.
And always remember the song. I loved it. I heard it on the radio and I raced down to a place called Our Price, which we used to have.
Right.
And I think it was like $1.99. I spent my pocket money on it. So I wanted to tell you.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I want it back.
What a great song. Tell me about this song.
It happened at a very interesting time when everybody in the world really thought that Nelson Mandela would one day come out of prison and be running around shooting white people. Because, when he went into prison, he was down as a murderer and all kinds of things. But when he came out, totally different situation. And I was one of the guys who was pushing for his release and the whole anti-apartheid thing to bust open. I had recorded the album File on the Rock. I'd just finished, and something went wrong with one of the synthesizers that I was working with. And so I said to the guy who was engineering, I said, listen, I'll go into the house and get me a hot chocolate. Amazing. It's brings back memories. And so I went across. The house is, I don't know, maybe 50 yards away from the studio. And so I walked this distance to the house, asked my wife to make me a cup of hot chocolate, and then I sat down to drink it in front of the TV. And there was a program on apartheid, and it was so disgusting and horrible. It drove me to tears. I never forget that moment. My wife came and she says, "Oh, what's the matter? You're crying?" I said, "Oh, no. It's just something going in my eyes." Anyway, I'm watching this program and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. People killing people. And so then I decided, you know what, I'm going to get up and go over to the studio again. By now, hopefully the guy's finished working on the synth and I can get on with finishing the album. But something, as I'm going across to the studio, just kept on saying to me, "Give me hope, Joanna. Give me hope, Joanna. Give me hope." And I'm walking. A lot of the big songs that I've had have come that way, either walking or driving.
And they just spring into your head?
Believe me to God, I mean, it's just something that happens. And you can't avoid it. It's like wanting to go to the bathroom and you just got to go. Well, this is exactly the feeling when this song was coming to me. Give me hope, Joanna. Give me hope, Joanna. Give me hope. And I'm skipping as I got to the studio door. By the time I got to this, it was a situation that I really got to go. So I said, listen, take off that tape, and let's do this. And I just started playing that acoustic guitar, and piece by piece, this whole song came to me. And before too long, it was a track finished. And now I had the album finished without Gimme Hope, Joanna. So I then thought that, you know what, I just better put this on here because, it's time. My brother and people who heard it said I shouldn't put it on there because the BBC would not play it and America was not anti-apartheid and all of these things they were saying to me. But I and I had to put my own money behind it because I wasn't with a record company.
Wow, so you actually privately released this?
I've done that with all my music.
Yeah.
But just this time I did not have a license with any major record company. And so, yeah, I had to go out, make the video, made 2 videos of it. The second one was much better. And so I didn't release the first one. And all of this was going on. And before too long, the record was a success. Both black and white in South Africa were into the record. It was banned by the government of the time. And then Nelson Mandela came out. A great day for the world because so many strange things could have happened.
Let me ask you about another track on your list. It's one of yours as well. Let's go to this. I Don't Want to Dance. Another. You are an absolute king at making the most kind of perfect pop songs, and they still sound great on the radio. What is it about this track?
It's the first track that I made in Barbados, having moved out there, and the studio was the priority. I mean, when I went there at first, I thought the house was a priority because I had my family still in England to come out. And the sooner I get my family, I thought the better. But I was being challenged by the record company, the licensees of Ice Records, because I hadn't followed up the album before that, which is Can't Get Enough. And they were threatening, it would sue me and all kinds of things. So I had to move all the workmen from the house to where the studio was going to be. And they're working feverishly, but not finishing. So I had to start working in an unfinished studio with guys banging and whatever it is. And it was the first song that I wrote that is on Killer on the Rampage. There was a guy there called Red Man, who was the head of the cement workers, the masons. And he'd come in as I'm working on this track. He's doing his work and whatever, trying to be quiet. And he said to me, Mr. Grant, I don't know too much about music, but see that song? That's going to be number 1. I said, well, from your mouth to God's ears, Red Man, And it just happened exactly that.
Yeah.
The number 2 one, which was Electric Avenue, second song I wrote, and the same thing happened. But this was a guy from the Lake District, or Scotland, basically.
Yeah.
And he was teaching me to play squash. So every afternoon at 5 o'clock, he'd come around and say, squash time, come on, let's go. And I'd down tools, whatever I'm doing, and go and play squash with him. And he said to me, when he came in this particular day, and we were doing that sound, and he said to me, Ed, I'm just a poor white boy, I don't know too much about these things, mate, but you see that song? I said, yeah. He says, it's gonna sell millions to white people. Just like that. I said, come on. He says, no, I'm not joking. And exactly that is what happened. He's passed now, which my squash has suffered.
But what a point he did have, because you did make music accessible and everybody loved it as much as each other for different reasons.
Oh, absolutely.
You mentioned Electric Avenue. Can you tell me about, I've read loads about it over the years. Is it about the street in Brixton? Tell me about how you wrote it.
Stories are long, but all my stories are long. Let me try and truncate that. I used to go to Brixton because I lived North London. I used to go to Brixton to attend what they call the Dark and Light Theatre. which was overseen, certainly for a time, by the great Norman Beaton, who, as you know, is Desmond's on the television over here. And he was running like a school, I suppose, for actors. And I had left the Equals by then. And so I was doing television, I was doing tap dancing, classical dancing, jazz dancing, and acting in the theater. I did the Royal Court in a 3-man play done by Mustafa Matura. And so, you know, real highbrow stuff. And there with the god of acting, with Norman Beaton, we were doing every day something or the other. So I was up in Brixton a lot. And one day I'm walking along the street and I just looked, I don't know what made me look up. And I saw Electric Avenue. I thought, Jesus, what a fantastic title for a song. But I didn't pay it much more mind than that. And eventually, obviously, it was about time that I was going to leave to go to Barbados. And I lost all my baggage. I lost all my songs, my lyrics, my tapes, my everything. And I had to create a new album. And so I started. The first one I wrote was I Don't Want to Dance. And the second one, I just thought, why don't I do something around that Electric Avenue title? It's a fantastic title, you know. And I remember I had a conversation with one of the executives, let's put it that way, of the BBC. I had gone to see him, my brother had taken me to speak to him, because things in England were really pretty terrible for black artists, black football players, black actors. The whole damn black situation was pretty terrible. And I used to, on the Reggae Time program of the BBC, London, and so on, talk about these issues. You know, I've been talking about this stuff for years. You know, people get a little touchy when I started to talk about it, but the fact is I've been doing this thing for nearly 60 years. And so I'm talking to this guy who said, listen, Mr. Grant, I've only got 5 or 10 minutes for you. You can come in, you know. And I went in and said, we were in there for over 2 hours talking about the situation. I was saying, you know, England's got black people. You're playing American black people. And England's got their own too. Why don't you play? And he said, oh, you mean to play your music? I said, no, I'm leaving. Play the ones that are here. Give the guys who are footballers an opportunity, you know. Opportunity, capacity brings success. The guys who are running, the girls who are running, you know, give them the opportunity to run for Britain, because they are basically British. Yeah. And so on and so forth. And he made a remark that was, oh, Eddie, so what you're saying basically is rivers of blood? And I never forgot that, because it's a saying that came out of the Honorable Enoch Powell's mouth at that time. And I says, well, you can call it that, but it's going to happen, you know. And so I was able to draw on that conversation, and many like it that I'd had. So it's an amalgam of stories that brings forward the songs.
Yeah, and you've managed to create a tourist location now, because I was in Brixton and people were looking for it. They wanted to take pictures next to the roadside. It's almost like a kind of different Abbey Road thing going on there, isn't it?
Exactly. When, what's the guy's name? Samuel Jackson came over to Britain the other day to film. He actually went down there and went into one of the restaurants, and I had to see Electric Avenue. You know, saying it's a brand that was always there, but it has become ubiquitous now.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, congratulations. It's an amazing track.
Congratulations to Britain. I mean,
We've come a long way.
yeah, I'm telling you.
I'm dying to ask you about James Brown. Did you know him?
Yes. I was, I don't know, maybe 16. I can't remember what. It was around that time when he came to Britain. And he was vilified, man. I mean, people didn't understand what he was all about. They saw him on Ready, Steady, Go, and the next day in the papers they were saying this guy's a madman and so on. But I saw him and I saw God, you know, and I decided I gotta go and see this guy.
Yeah.
You know, he had played the Ready, Steady, Go, and he was that night going to be at the Walthamstow Granada. And so I had to find myself the Walthamstow Granada. I had no money, so I must have either used my school bus pass or something, and I ran a great distance to go and see this guy. When I got there, the place is, you know, packed with people in the streets, and there was this old man selling James Brown's programs, a guy by the name of Mr. Moore, a very fat, rotund gentleman, and he was so funny. He would go up to the girls as they're coming to go into the show, and he'd bounce them with his big belly, and he'd say, "Come on, you can buy one of James' program. You want to see James? You want to see James?" And I'm standing there looking at him. He said, "Hey, you, sell some of these. You go and see James." And I said, "Yeah." I had no money to get in. So I took some of the programs, and I'm going around trying to sell them to the girls.
James Brown's programs.
And nobody would buy from me. But they'd go to this old guy, and he'd just bounce them in his belly, and they'd buy programs from him. And then suddenly, he disappeared. He just grabbed the programs and ran. And he's in this crowd, and I'm running after him, trying to... But he slipped in. I've never seen a fat guy move so fast. He slipped into this door, and he was gone. And I'm standing outside, and I'm saying, this is crazy. I got to see this guy, James Brown. And the press were going through this door and holding up a card and saying, so-and-so Daily Mirror, so-and-so Daily Telegraph, so-and-so. And I thought, how the hell am I going to do? So I remember I had my bus pass. So I grabbed the bus pass out of my pocket and ran up to the door and says, "Edmund Grant, Daily Worker." And the guy just let me in. If only he'd known that the Daily Worker is a communist paper and they weren't given to coming to James Brown shows. But I got in backstage, and I'm walking through this corridor at the Walthamstow Granada, and there's James Brown sitting in this room with Doris Troy. And I thought, Jesus God, James looked like he was trying to make time, you know, so yeah. I can't interfere with the man's groove, you know. So I just ran down this passage and bumped into who was Bobby Bennett, who was James Brown's, he was one of the dancers of the Flames.
Yeah. He
did his hair and he looked after his clothes. And he said, "Hey, Hugh." I said, "Hey, what's happening?" He says, "Come on in here. You want to do something for me?" I said, "Oh." Clean James' shoes. And he had a multitude of shoes.
Yeah.
I've never seen a guy with so much clothes. And I'm totally out of it. You know, I just started the Equals and that. And I'm looking at all of this clothes in these cases and this and that. And I'm putting away the clothes that he's going to wear. And the next thing I know, I'm at the side of the stage watching the greatest artist ever. I mean, people talk about Michael Jackson. Well, even Michael would tell you the greatest artist ever, the greatest showman. I had the pleasure of watching him. And at that time, he had Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. The next day, he was doing the show at the Granada in Brixton. And I went with them again and saw the band rehearse. And that created such an impact on me that it became me. That became what it is that I wanted to do. That's how I wanted to drill a band, and fantastic. It was like seeing God.
Yeah, amazing. Are you enjoying this, Eddie?
I just swallowed my chocolate.
You made me nervous then for a moment.
No. Just got it gulped down. Yeah, I'm enjoying this because first of all, I'm talking about an artist who I revere. Well, most of them will be artists that I revere. But this one, James Brown, it was unbelievable. It's moment.
Let me ask you about another then. Dying to hear your thoughts, your memories. Stevie Wonder.
Stephen. Yes. Where do I start? I start at the beginning. When I must put this in. Mm-hmm. I'm writing my book.
Yes.
So obviously, a lot of these stories are going to be told in full.
Okay.
But I first met Stevie, person to person, when I was trying to do a deal for the album Walking on Sunshine. And I went to America. Steve's road manager was my road manager with the Equals at first.
Right.
So obviously I'm going to see my road manager, who happened to be working for Stevie Wonder. Steve knows everything. He's so aware, and he knew the song. And he told me, he says, I'm going to record that song with Aretha Franklin. Take it from me, it's a done deal. I said, oh, it's wonderful. And we got then to know each other, and I went up to his studio and spent time with him, and we drove around and went and ate, and he treated me like I was a star. And remember, I hadn't had Living on the Front Line yet. So it's, he said, look, I got a radio station, I said, yeah, what's it called? It's KJLH. And I'm going to call them right now, and tell them to put on Walking on Sunshine, because this is going to be the biggest one. Okay, Steve, I forgot it basically. But then he went and he called them. And that record was played incessantly.
So he got it done.
On KJLH. This is his radio station.
Yeah.
And since then, we went on over the years, meeting up, and me going again back to LA, and he coming to play here, and the relationship stayed firm, So it's the very first time I would have seen Stevie Wonder was at the All-Star Club in Bishopsgate, or Liverpool Street, that side, Artillery Passage. And I went there with a Rastafarian friend of a friend. And the band had just started, the Equals had just started, and he was going to help me to get the band to play at the All-Star Club, which of course he did. And the artist that night was Stevie Wonder.
Wow.
And it's the first time that I saw him. I saw him play the drums, I saw him play his harmonica and whatever it is. And I thought, yeah, this guy's going to be big. I mean, you're talking about the early 60s.
It's amazing, isn't
Yeah.
it? People who I've met, who've known him, who've met him, who know him, have said he's almost otherworldly. He's got that thing about him.
Steve's got he's got eyes. I don't know quite how, but I'll give you a funny story. He came to see me in Barbados, and I was in the studio. And he came to the studio and he said, "Oh, Eddie, it's a wonderful studio you got here, man. Wonderful studio." I said, "Well, how do you know?" He said, "I can see it." And we were walking out the studio now for me to show him around the yard and the building and so on. And we have a step from the studio stepping up to go to the other level. And I'm walking. He says, "Just put my hand on your shoulder and you just walk." So I'm walking, and he's got his hand on my shoulder. And I stump my toe as I'm going over. He said, "You blind or what, man?" It's serious.
That's amazing.
He said,
Wow.
"Are you blind or what, man? You can't walk straight." So that, I know a lot of people that he's done that to.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
And
got,
one more question about him. I must ask you this. I just thought of it.
Yeah.
We got very excited for a while earlier this year that he might do Glastonbury. There was a rumour for a bit, and it didn't happen. Do you think it ever would again?
that he would play Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Anything is possible with Steve. You know, he's his own man. I mean, if he wants to play it, then they'll make the deal.
Okay.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be nice if it's a sunshine day. God gives Stevie a nice sunshine day if he comes to Glastonbury.
Amazing, yeah, amazing stuff. Eddie Grant, amazing to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
You're a wonderful person. I love your songs. First 7-inch record I ever bought. Eddie Grant, thank you. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, mate.
Virgin Radio.